o'clock news starts right now.
Right now on the news at 6, lower temperatures and the possibility of light ice prompting area school districts to cancel classes. Our Adam Caskey with the rundown of what we need to know.
Plus, Texas Biomed working to stay ahead of COVID-19 variants. We talked to a researcher about how that's done and the curveballs they deal with in developing effective vaccines and treatments.
And a massage employee behind bars for allegedly groping a client, where police say it happened, what the woman involved told police. But first, they were found tied up, alone, injured, just 1 and 2 years of age. There was a hearing in children's court today for the toddlers at the center of this case. We are finding out how those children are doing today and what happened before their abuse was discovered. The hearing today was virtual and could not be recorded, but our Erica Hernandez listened into that and has the details on this case and the woman being charged now with their abuse.
The two toddlers found bound, trapped, and alone in a Southwest Side home on January 9th are now in foster care and doing well. That's according to the lawyer representing the children. A hearing was held this afternoon with Judge Charles Montemayor to discuss how the two kids were doing and to get better clarification on how they ended up in the home they were in. According to Child Protective Services, the children were originally taken from their biological mother and one of the children's fathers after unexplained fractures were found on them. Priscilla Saleas, the biological mother's stepmother, passed a home study done by CPS, and the children were placed in her care. CPS also noted that December 29th was the last home visit made by them to see the children. According to CPS, everything appeared to be fine, and the placement with Saleas was meeting their basic needs.
11 days later, they were found. According to the arrest affidavit, the toddler girl was found tied up by her ankle and her wrist with visible injuries, and the toddler boy was found encaged in a playpen. Judge Montemayor today had harsh words for everyone involved in this case.
He said, quote, all adults, parents, caregivers, and the system failed these children. These children have been through a lot, and it's not going to continue. Judge Montemayor also ordered the kids to begin trauma-based therapy and that child advocates get involved. The children's original CPS caseworker will not continue with this case. No explanation was given why, only that another caseworker will take it over. As for Priscilla Saleas, she made bond yesterday and has since been released from jail. Her first court hearing won't take place until she's indicted. Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
All right, let's take a look at traffic right now. We're really going to talk about the weather here. There's no issues out on the roads in all different parts of town right now, but that is certainly potentially going to change tomorrow morning. That's the big concern with what is headed our way.
Yeah, and you'll see on a lot of these trans guides, the bridges, the overpasses, those are the areas of biggest concern. Right, Adam?
Yeah, and TxDOT's done a great job. They've got the brine out there. You see those 6 little lines per lane, those little white lines, those little streaks on the bridges and overpasses, and that's that brine, the pre-treatment, which goes a long way and helps a lot, and that's out there on the bridges and overpasses already. So TxDOT has gotten ahead of it, and overall, a fairly low impact event into tomorrow. A lot of what's helped us today, the warmth. 77 today. Yesterday we were in the 70s. We had 2 days of full sunshine to really warm up the ground. I think that's going to work in our favor to limit any accumulations outside of some bridges and overpasses. But let's talk about temperatures here. Get ready for the cold blast just within a couple of hours. So you look off to the north, Amarillo 28, Oklahoma City 29. Temperatures even colder farther north up the plains. Meanwhile, we're still 81 in Del Rio, 72 officially in San Antonio, 80 in Cotulla, even 72 in Fredericksburg, but the cold front is just about to move through Fredericksburg. And I think it's going to hit San Antonio around 8, 9 o'clock. That's when the cold front hits. Temperatures will start to fall off quickly. So by 10 o'clock, we're talking closer to 50 degrees. But the key is, by about 9 o'clock, that's when the wind really picks up here in San Antonio. A few hours after that, a few hours later, south of town. So becoming gusty, a steady north wind at 20 to 25, gusts up to 40 miles per hour through the night tonight and even first thing tomorrow morning. If tomorrow morning is trash or recycling day or organics bin, you may want to wait to the last minute to put it out because those tops will be flopping around in that wind. Temperatures really falling off. I mean, tomorrow we're going to spend the day in the 30s. So quite a contrast to the 70s of today, the 70s of yesterday. Tomorrow, bundle up. We'll be 36 at 6 a.m., then down to about 32 degrees by 1 o'clock. And we'll spend most of the afternoon right around the freezing point. So not only cold, but also windy. And that wind is already starting to pick up in Junction. The wind is really going to be howling, as I mentioned, tonight, throughout the day. Tomorrow, some gusts up to 40 miles per hour starting around 9-10 p.m. tonight. And that's going to make it feel a lot colder. We'll talk more about the wind chill and, of course, the light wintry mix and the potential impacts from that coming right up.
All right, thanks, Adam. From the 70s to the 30s, let's talk about the impact to schools. Several school districts already canceling classes because of that winter weather headed our way. Here is the cancellation list so far. SAISD, Bernie ISD, Northside, Inney ISD, Somerset, Harlandale, South San ISD, as well as Judson ISD also on this list. Now, we expect this list could change with additional cancellations or perhaps even delayed start times. So be sure to check KSAT.com for the very latest.
And with the cold weather on the horizon, it could be a tough few days for people who live on San Antonio streets. Garrett Berger checked in with some local groups to see how they're preparing to help. He joined us live at the Corazon Day Center, which serves as a warming center and a resource hub for the homeless. Garrett.
Corazon Day Center preparing to open up tomorrow and Friday, quite possibly on Saturday as well. And they aren't the only ones expanding their hours. Haven for Hope operates a cold weather winter sleeping program from December through March. Now, there are minimal restrictions on who can stay. You don't have to be part of any Haven programs. They even allow pets. Normally, people check in at 10 p.m. and have to leave by 6 the next morning. However, tomorrow night, in anticipation of those freezing temperatures, they're going to open up at 6 p.m. and let people stay until 9 on Friday. Then they'll give those who want it a ride over here to the Corazon Day Center where they can warm up too.
Our capacity is about 120 for our winter sleeping. If we reach maximum capacity, which we hope we don't, we will pass out cold weather winter kits that include sleeping bags and other warm clothing items.
The Salvation Army shelter, however, already filled up, and they expect it to stay that way through the cold temperatures. Now, once temperatures get down to about freezing, though, Salvation Army says they will give blankets out to those who they can't provide a bed for. Now, staff here at the Corazon Day Center are also going to be able to direct people to any open shelters or resources. And Corazon San Antonio plans to open its own emergency shelter that they operate at the Travis Park Church both tomorrow and Friday night at least. Live downtown, I'm Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
All right, thank you, Garrett. Let's turn now to COVID-19. Metro Health reporting 6,450 new COVID cases tonight. That brings the 7-day moving average to 5,961. There are 5 new deaths to report this evening as well. The hospitalization rate also seeing an increase with 1,218 people hospitalized right now. That's 260 people in the ICU and 111 patients are on ventilators.
An important note tonight, Community Lab says it is temporarily suspending COVID-19 testing tomorrow. This is for its public collection sites. The move due to potential freezing rain, dangerous driving conditions that we just told you about. The testing sites that will not be open include the sites at the Alamo College District Support Operations Building, Palo Alto College, St. Philip's College, and Wonderland Mall of the Americas, as well as several others. Community Lab's public testing locations will resume testing on Friday at 8 a.m. at all of its locations. And speaking of testing, thanks to federal funding, there's a new COVID testing site up and running at the Alamo Dome.
From 7 a.m. until 5 p.m., you can make an appointment or just show up for a test at Lot C. That's right at the corner of Cherry Street and Montana.
Our Max Massey gives us an inside look and explains what you can expect there.
My son, he's at school and he tests positive. So we want to make sure. My mom is diabetic, so we just want to make sure she's fine.
Go ahead and pull that out for me. It's a swab there.
Nadia Trevino and her family were just some of the hundreds of people we saw today taking advantage of this free and fast testing. The last couple years has been confusing dealing with COVID here in our community. But with this new wave, people are once again on edge.
We've been at home, yes, because I have a baby. Well, she's 4, but she's still little, so we're kind of nervous about it.
In past surges, the city had 13 free testing sites, but now we have over 33 free testing sites, and they're all listed on the city's website.
In the past surges, we've seen the highest number of tests done on daily basis was around 8,500 to 9,000 tests.
And swab the inside of each nostril 10 times.
Now we are documenting upwards of 11,600 tests per day.
And with this huge influx of more testing, if you get your test, you may have to wait longer to find out the results.
At this time, it is anywhere from 48 to 72 hours, but we really expect it to go up to 96 hours once the number of tests go up, because of the sheer volume of the test itself.
Max Massey, KSAT 12 News.
A Texas biomed researcher has spent 20 years helping to develop vaccines for therapies for Ebola, Marburg virus, and the anthrax plague. And now he's working to battle COVID-19, even helping develop the Pfizer and the Novavax vaccines. Courtney Friedman explains how he's now finding ways to block or treat this ever-changing variant.
Alpha, Beta, Delta, Omicron. A lot of Americans are learning the Greek alphabet as the original SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19 continues to mutate and cause new variants.
But only those changes that confer some sort of advantage to a variant will actually go out in the population.
Dr. Ricardo Carrion Jr. is the director of Maximum Containment Contract Research at Texas Biomed in San Antonio. He says current COVID vaccines broadly cover the basic structure of SARS-CoV-2, and so far that's held for all the variants, just to different degrees. For example, he says you're less protected from the Omicron variant without a vaccine boost.
We see that there's some evasion occurring, and is also always possible.
Which is why teams like his are working around the clock to update boosters and even create different types of vaccines.
That part of the vaccine that allows your body to respond, they're looking at different areas that might be more protective against these variants that emerge.
Variants like Omicron have also changed the way they're developing therapies for people with COVID, instead of just targeting one specific part of the original version of the virus.
Partners are looking at different areas of Omicron and perhaps finding some sort of what we call pan coronavirus type therapy. So you can look at all different coronavirus and hopefully one will be able to help counteract any future unseen variant.
A constant work in progress impacting the future of mankind. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
New at 6, an employee at a West Side foot spa accused of inappropriately touching a woman during a massage last month. 64-year-old N. Lee Sun is charged with indecent assault. The incident happened back on December 12th at the ZW Foot Spa on Petranco Road near Highway 151. Police said the woman called police from her home because she was, quote, freaking out, end quote, and froze. Sun's bond set at $15,000.
We have learned the name of a woman killed during a Northside house fire this week. The Bexar County Medical Examiner identifies her as 68-year-old Deborah Briner. This was the scene on Monday at Brightwood Place near Broadway and Nacogdoches Road. When fire crews got there, they realized a couple was still inside the home. First responders tried to save Briner, but she died from soot and smoke inhalation. Her husband was taken to a hospital for burns.
And take a look at the scary scene late last night. A driver having to be cut out of his vehicle on 281 North at Bitters Road. Police say about 10:30, the man in his 30s jumped a median, causing his vehicle to roll over. He was taken to the hospital. He's expected to be okay. Officers say alcohol was not a factor in this crash.
Adam Caskey talking about that winter weather headed our way right after the break.
Welcome back. There is so much to discuss tonight on the Night Beat, starting with this, a battle for the ballot. It is a contentious race for district judge in Bexar County. 2 candidates have already taken this battle to court. And now the defenders is uncovering a new layer in this saga, one that appears to involve the sudden disappearance of debt. And of course, weather continues to be the big story. The cool down is forcing some schools to close. We're going to continue to update those listings as they come in. We're also keeping an eye on how local leaders are preparing for the weather. And you're going to hear what CPS Energy is doing. We'll see you for these stories and so much more tonight on the Night Beat.
And we have one more school to add to the list. Alamo Heights ISD is canceling classes tomorrow. Of course, the complete list on KSAT.com.
And a big question with this, Adam Caskey, is the timing of when this winter weather is supposed to get here, because the concern, the roads for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and I think the surface roads should be just fine. I mean, with the warmth and the bright and direct sunlight we've had for a few days now, that really warms up the ground, and the ground retains that warmth a lot better than bridges and overpasses. Bridges and overpasses, the air flows under them and through them, cools them off quickly. They don't retain that warmth, and that's really our main concern for tomorrow, is just some of the bridges and overpasses. But as I mentioned earlier, TxDOT has done a good job, and they've gone out there and they've got the pre-treatment to help limit some travel issues. So turning windy and cold tonight, and especially tomorrow, a bit of a light wintry mix and a low impact event. As for the timing, the best way to put it is after sunrise tomorrow, we'll just see some intermittent, scattered, light wintry sprinkles. Okay, they're going to come and go. It's not going to start at any particular time for any specific area, as it'll just be coming and going, scattered about throughout the day. So let's get to the main points, what you want to plan for. That off and on, very light wintry mix, some liquid rain mixed with little ice pellets. You'll hear those ice pellets, the sleet ting, ting, ting on the windows at times. Accumulation is very minimal. I think on some elevated surfaces like your back deck or even shrubs and bushes, a little dusting. Some of that ice can accumulate just to a little bit. I mean, we're talking less than 1/10 of an inch. Main concern, bridges and overpasses. That's usually our primary concern, and that's where I think any travel issues would be confined to some bridges and overpasses. But again, the pre-treatment usually goes a long way. Big headline tomorrow, windy and cold. It's going to feel like 20 degrees pretty much all day when you factor in the wind. You talk about wind chill. So clear sky today. Again, that sunlight helping us big time, goes a long way. Ground retains that warmth very nicely. So when you add on top of it that cold precipitation, we're basically counteracting it because of the sun the past couple of days. Few little disturbances moving overhead. One of them causing potentially severe weather East Texas into Louisiana. This next disturbance will help stir things up overhead in our area tomorrow. But notice not a lot of precipitation associated with it at the moment in New Mexico and Arizona. Futurecast shows, as we mentioned, around and after sunrise, just a scattering, widely separated little sprinkles of wintry mix, liquid and a little bit of ice mixed in, and it's just going to come and go here and there throughout south and central Texas, all the way through sunset, and overall just be more of a gee whiz situation where you see those little pellets sometimes, particularly on your back deck. So from the noon hour, or I'd say maybe 10, 11 a.m., all the way through midnight, main impacts would be bridges and overpasses. Thereafter, otherwise, we're not looking at any big impacts. And a quick explainer on sleet. Way up above us, there's snow. There's going to be snow in the clouds, but it's going to fall into a layer of above freezing temperatures. It falls into a warm layer, melts into a liquid raindrop, and then quickly refreezes near the ground into a little ice pellet. So that's what we'll be dealing with tomorrow. Way up in the clouds, it'll be snowing and raining, but here at the ground, we'll get those little ice pellets of the refrozen raindrops. As for temperatures, it's going to be cold. We'll be in the 30s all day tomorrow, low to mid 30s, but it'll feel like it's closer to 20 degrees. The pink here indicating the wind chill, the feels like, and the blue indicating the actual air temperature and the real readings from the thermometers. So near 32 degrees most of the afternoon tomorrow. That light off and on wintry mix just coming and going periodically throughout the day after sunrise through sunset. And then Friday morning, we've got air temperatures down in the mid-20s. So a cold start to your Friday, but by the afternoon, upper 40s and sunny. This weekend, Saturday, another chilly start at 28, but we'll have high temperatures in the low 50s, which is a good 10 degrees below average for this time of year.
All right, thanks, Adam. We have an update to some of the school cancellations for tomorrow. Bernie ISD will be holding classes tomorrow. As of now, they are planning to go ahead and hold classes in Bernie ISD. Be sure to check out KSAT.com for this list because it continues to change.
All right, it was a late night development last night. The Spurs play the Thunder tonight after saying bye-bye Bryn.
Yeah, bye-bye Bryn. He's been traded to Denver in a 3-team trade for the San Antonio Spurs. Now tonight they're going to face the Thunder. DeJounte Murray studies the dean of NBA guards, Chris Paul, so no wonder Murray's having such a fantastic season. And JP2 guard Desmond Dudley shattered the school's scoring record. Coming up.
running the team, time to score, how patient he is, just how he makes guys better. You know, I can go on and on.
DeJounte Murray has nothing but love for Suns point guard Chris Paul in big board sports. Led by point guard DeJounte Murray, the Spurs will host the OKC Thunder tonight. Murray leads the Spurs in scoring this season at 19.1 points per game, and he's kicked it up a notch in January. In 8 games so far, Murray is averaging 23.8 points, 8.8 assists, and 8.3 rebounds. After the Suns beat the Spurs Monday night, point guard Chris Paul praised Murray big time.
I've been studying Chris a long time. Before I was in the league, I knew him. Before I was in the league, you know, so the relationship goes back. Jamal Crawford linked us together, you know, when he came to Seattle. And, you know, it's been a great relationship. That's somebody I could text whenever.
Spurs have traded shooting guard Bryn Forbes to the Denver Nuggets as part of a 3-team deal per a team release. San Antonio will get Juancho Hernan Gomez from Boston, Denver's 2028 second-round draft pick, and $2.35 million. The Nuggets are 6th in the West and looking to improve from downtown. So here's the matchup tonight. The Spurs will host the OKC Thunder at 7:30. Out in Church, John Paul II Catholic High School is thinking state championship in boys basketball, thanks in large part to senior point guard Desmond Dudley, the school's all-time leading scorer with 1,291 points. The old record was 777, held by Austin White. Desmond has won back-to-back district MVPs and is thrilled to be number 1 on the Guardians' all-time scoring list.
Man, that means a lot. Just knowing how supportive this community is and how small it is, it means a lot to just be on top, and it's just a blessing for me to be able to accomplish that before I head out of here.
Dez is also the Guardians' all-time leader in assists and steals, plus he's a great teammate.
Leads us on the court and off the court. He helps gets us going. He's an energy guy. He feeds off of energy like the rest of our team.
He means a lot. He's our point guard, starting point guard, you know. He plays, like, we kind of play around him in a way. You know, like, sets a lot of people up.
Dez has a championship mentor in his father, Stacy Dudley, a member of the 1995 East Central boys basketball team that dominated the competition en route to a perfect season and Class 5A state championship.
Honestly, he's really the reason why I do what I do. He pushes me the most. He strives me to be great and just be the best player that I could possibly be. And without him, I wouldn't be the player I am today. So I just have to thank him for that and everything he's done for me.
JP2 head coach Forrest Blackwell is very thankful for Stacy Dudley as well.
Winning is a culture. Winning is something that can be passed on. I believe that in some way, some form, his dad has passed that culture on to him. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think he's very instrumental in what Dez has done in this program.
Does he talk about that championship team and all?
Man, all the time. I watch it, rewatch it. It's so cool just seeing it and like knowing that I'm kind of like trying to relive that, and it's just so cool to me.
Yeah, Dez wants to win a state championship to join his dad.
You know Dad's breaking out the old tapes. Yeah,
absolutely.
Probably the VHS tapes, pop them in the old camcorder.
Dez says, though, too, I asked him if he plays his dad. He says, well, my dad can't beat me now. But Dad has the state championship.
Yeah, Dad has the tapes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our KSAT Q&A up next.
He is one of our go-to guys when we talk politics and local races, and he is a professor, actually the chair of the Political Science and Geography Department at the University of Texas, San Antonio. He is Professor John Taylor. John, thank you for joining us. A lot of talk today, and the president certainly talked about it in his long news conference today, about voting rights. And it seems as if it's doomed in its current package. That doesn't necessarily mean it's dead, right?
That's correct. It's not dead, but I mean, the president left the door open to compromise. He left the door open to breaking the bill apart in order to get something accomplished, to get it done. In particular, I think he was aiming this idea of breaking the bill apart to get, at least an aspect of voting rights passed. He's trying to placate both Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin.
But we are still expecting a vote in the Senate this evening, right? So what are you watching there?
Are we going to get to that 60-vote threshold to prevent a filibuster? The answer is no, we're not. We're going to see a majority vote in favor of it. Let's see what Republican jumps in. I'm not. If I were a Democrat, I would say don't be optimistic you're going to see many, if any, Republicans jump in to support the bill.
Yeah, they seem like a pretty united front right now against it. I want to hopscotch around to some different events and some different political races that we're talking about. A lot of numbers have been coming out over the last few days. Beto O'Rourke actually in San Antonio today. The governor was here last week, certainly pointing out, I think, that San Antonio and South Texas it's going to be a big player in this governor's race. You agree with that?
No question whatsoever. It's definitely in play. Going back to last November, December, when you had the special election for House District 118, you had a concerted Republican effort. You had push by the Republican National Committee to have outreach offices both in the Valley and here in San Antonio. There's going to be a real push for competition. And San Antonio, and in many respects, South Texas, San Antonio especially, I think is going to be the epicenter of this.
Any reaction to the numbers that we've seen so far? The Beto O'Rourke campaign reporting that they raised something in excess of $7 million. But when you look at the war chest that Governor Abbott has right now, there are a lot of people who seem to think his biggest challenge could come from within his party.
Yeah, we'll do the first part with Beto and then about his own challenge or own party challenge. Beto raised $7+ million, which is fantastic for a Democrat, for a party that has not controlled the governorship in 24 years. And so you're talking about a generational issue when it comes to fundraising and running an effective statewide campaign. He came the closest to running an effective statewide campaign when he ran for Senate, obviously, a few years ago. But I mean, Abbott has raised an amazing amount of money. Can that be overcome? The answer is, of course it can. A variety of events can occur. Abbott can have a slip up in terms of his leadership. There could be something out of the blue that affects things. And in general, there just may be a general malaise toward a third term for Greg Abbott. That said, Democrats need to understand the playing field. Playing field is right now, Greg Abbott has a substantial war chest, the largest war chest for a gubernatorial candidate since the 2002 race between Rick Perry and blanking on his name. That tells you how effective he was. He lost by a 2-1 majority. On the Republican side, Greg Abbott is feeling the heat. Now that said, Don Huffines and Alan West, and there's a third guy, Chad Prather. We're going to set him aside because he's not raising a lot of money. Alan West has raised maybe about $3 million, $2.5 million. Don Huffines, who is a very wealthy man and can self-finance, the Texas Ethics Commission numbers show today he's raised somewhere around maybe $3.5–5 million. It doesn't count the amount of money he's self-financed or donated. And you may have seen his billboards and his advertisements around town, on TV during the Cowboys game, in fact, the other day. He's putting the pressure on that way. But Abbott, obviously, because Abbott can literally control the airwaves. He can control the ground game as well, just because of the amount of money. But money is not everything. You can overcome money, but it's going to take a substantial grassroots effort. I'm not sure that's going to happen in the Republican primary. So we're now talking Democrats again. It's going to take a substantial grassroots effort on the part of O'Rourke between now and November to overcome that Abbott money advantage.
You had to bring up the Cowboys. A lot of people still feeling the pain of
Yeah, well,
I want to continue.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I want to keep going with our political hopscotch and talk about what's happening in Bexar County. The Bexar County judges race, a big one, because it's going to be a new name no matter what happens. So what are you looking for in that race?
And with all due respect to Republicans, the Republican race, I think, is not nearly as competitive. I think you've got a candidate pretty much set there.
Right, Trish DeBerry.
Trish DeBerry. So it's on the Democratic side. And once you've got three candidates if someone was a Democrat, the question is leadership and experience. It's a question of effectiveness. It's a question of connections and such. And all three have that. So you've got Judge Sakai, who's a longtime state judge. You've got Ina Mineras, a state representative, and you have Meza, Mayor Nurnberg's chief of staff. All three of which have the qualifications to be county judge. Now, some could argue, you don't want a younger person in as county judge. I would give you Harris County, where you had a very young person elected as county judge there. That's not to say age is a factor at all. It shouldn't be a factor. But it's going to be interesting in terms of in this case, not just the fundraising game, but the ground game, because in Bexar County, you're talking about about retail politics still. You're talking about, particularly in a Democratic primary, door to door, kissing babies, going to events. And let's see what happens in the next roughly 4 or 5 weeks.
And none of these three Democratic candidates have run a campaign like that before. So that's the interesting part. It's such an unknown. We're all just guessing right now on who we think. I mean, I've had different people tell me each of those different three names that you mentioned, they think are the favorites. So that tells me nobody knows who the favorite is right now.
No, exactly. Which is great about being a political scientist and a news person, because we can basically comment on this until election day.
There you go.
Anybody's game at this point. John Taylor.
That's right, it is.
Always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. All right, guys.
Thank you, John. Still ahead on your news at 6 o'clock. Can the U.S. Postal Service really deliver millions of at-home COVID-19 tests? Details on the challenges it's currently facing.
Plus, crime in the United States on the rise. We'll break down the latest stats next. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 2020 recorded the largest single-year increase in murders in a century. And the rates of deadly crimes have continued to rise. According to the FBI, nationwide homicides increased by 29% in 2020. Another 7% in 2021. That's according to Datalytics. Gun violence has been on a steady rise since 2014. Experts say the reasons for the rise in homicides are varied, but the Council on Criminal Justice attributes the spike to three major factors: the pandemic, the fallout of 2020's social unrest, and the surge in gun sales.
The U.S. Postal Service is confident it can deliver millions of at-home COVID-19 tests to Americans, but some Americans, they're not so sure. They say mail has been delayed for weeks, likely caused by the Omicron surge. With just a name and address, families can request 4 free at-home rapid antigen tests on covidtests.gov. They'll be delivered to your home. However, more than 19,000 postal workers were either sick or quarantining. The Postal Service hasn't released any detailed logistics for getting all those tests out. Stay tuned.
Yes, we will. Let's take a look outside with live cam. We are waiting for that winter weather to get here, Adam.
And let's be clear. This is not last February.
Thank you.
No.
There's no need to go clear the store shelves right now, okay? It's going to be a typical cold stretch around here, and we're going to feel it, the cold air, but it's going to be a fairly low impact event. Let's just talk about morning temperatures. We'll be in the mid-30s tomorrow morning, about 35 degrees. By Friday morning, we'll spend a period of time in the 20s, along with Saturday. And then by Sunday and as we get into next week, those morning temperatures come up a little bit. But keep in mind the average low is 41, so we will be running a little below average. High temperatures tomorrow afternoon, only about 32 degrees. But then by Friday, we're back in the 40s. Saturday and Sunday, we're in the lower 50s. All right, we're going to talk more about the precipitation, the wintry mix, and time it out for you and let you know what our main concerns are coming up.
Rapper Cardi B helping the victims of the deadly fire that broke out in a New York City apartment building last week. The Bronx native pledging to pay the funeral costs for the 17 people who were killed.
Cardi B says she hopes this can help the families put their efforts into moving forward and healing. The singer partnered with the Mayor's Fund to advance New York City to make sure the final wishes of the victims were met.
The state of New York also announcing it is granting $2 million to a fund for the victims of that fire.
All right, let's turn to the weather now, and I'm glad that, Steve, you mentioned it right before the break. The winter weather we're expecting, not severe. We're not talking about February of last year.
No, this is one of the more kind of typical events we see in a normal winter around here, where you have a little bit of cold rain mixed in with some sleet pellets and possibly even a little bit of light icing on some elevated surfaces, but nothing really too out of the ordinary for us in a typical winter. So turning windy and cold, and I really think that's going to be the main headline tomorrow. If you work outdoors, you need to bundle up tomorrow. Not just temperatures in the low to mid 30s all day, but also gusty winds up to 40 miles per hour. And yeah, we'll have a light wintry mix scattered about throughout the day, but overall it should be a pretty low impact event. So let's talk about what to plan for. We mentioned the off and on or intermittent light wintry mix along with some cold rain at times from about sunrise to sunset. So it's not going to be continuous. It's going to be off and on here and there, hitting random spots across South and Central Texas throughout the day. Minimal accumulations. I think we'll see a lot of pictures tomorrow of backyard decks, elevated exposed surfaces with little pellets of sleet and whatnot, maybe even a little glaze of ice. It's just some of those surfaces that could get that light dusting. We're talking under 1/10 of an inch. Not a lot of moisture with the system moving in, and that's our big limiting factor. Main concern, bridges and overpasses. As usual, those elevated surfaces exposed to the elements where the air can circulate, the cold air circulates all around it. They cool off quickly, and that's where we could see some slick spots. But TxDOT has been out. They've been pre-treating. You see those white strips down the lanes? That's that brine that they put out to help mitigate travel issues. Just exercise caution on those bridges and overpasses. But surface streets should mainly be damp because of all the sunlight and warmth we've had the past couple of days. That goes a long way, even in the cold tomorrow. Windy and cold. Going to feel like it's about 20 degrees. So those are the big headlines. Let's break it down for you. A few little disturbances out there. One just to the north of us, one in New Mexico. The one in New Mexico is going to help give us our lift between sunrise and sunset tomorrow to help generate just some widely separated areas, or I should call them sprinkles of a wintry mix. Wintry sprinkles here and there throughout the day tomorrow. This is 9 a.m. Don't pay too close attention to exactly where it shows the different colors on the screen. Just the mere fact that they're widely separated, coming and going here and there throughout the day. And at times you'll hear that ting, 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 ting on your windows. That's the sleet. Now, sleet is one of those types of wintry precipitation that's mainly just little ice pellets. But as for impacts, 7 a.m., little to no impact. About 11 a.m. through midnight, just some bridges and overpasses could be impacted. And to give you an idea of what the sleet is, so up above us in the air, we've got these layers up above us, and those layers are all different temperatures. So the precipitation starts as snow way up in the clouds, then falls through a layer of warm air, turns into a raindrop again, and then refreezes in the cold air right near the ground. A lot going on up above us. So that snow melts in the warm layer and then quickly refreezes into a little ice pellet. And I think we'll see a decent amount of that tomorrow mixed in with the rain. Temperatures, look at those 40s and 30s in North Texas. Meanwhile, we're still in the 70s, but the cold front's moving into the hill country right now. And as we go through the evening, it's going to hit us about 8, 9 o'clock in San Antonio. That's when the wind's going to pick up. It is the kind of cold front you're going to feel right when it hits. Gusty winds to about 40 miles per hour, and air temperatures quickly falling off. We'll be down in the 40s by midnight. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., 36 degrees. By the afternoon, we get even cooler, down near freezing most of the afternoon tomorrow. Combine that with winds up to about 40 miles per hour starting this evening around 9 o'clock, lasting through the day tomorrow. We'll have that wind chill or feels like temperature around 20 degrees. So as I said before, if you work outdoors, one of those days you really want to bundle up. So overall, that light mix off and on through the day tomorrow, but then by Friday, we're back to sunshine. It'll be cold Friday morning in the 20s, but by the afternoon, we're in the upper 40s. Saturday morning, cold again in the 20s, but then we're in the lower 50s for highs throughout the weekend.
So, Adam, again, are you expecting surface streets to be fine through all this?
Generally speaking, yes. The sunlight and warmth of the past few days really goes a long way, and the ground retains that warmth very nicely and much better than the elevated surfaces.
If there are going to be problem areas, that's an if, overpasses bridge, correct?
Correct.
All right. In case you missed it, coming up next.
Good morning, rise and shine. It is Wednesday, January 19th.
San Antonio police are trying to piece together an overnight shooting incident on the far west side. It began around 2:30 this morning outside of Loop 1604 on Culebra Road near Alamo Parkway. Police say a man in his early 20s was taken to the hospital with a gunshot wound to his leg. Officers tell us that it happened in a wooded area behind an apartment complex.
One of those homes is surrounded by crime scene tape. You can see right there. The scene is in Crosby, Texas. That's just northeast of Houston. And it is a tragic scene. Inside the home, 2 girls and 1 boy found dead. All appear to be under the age of 18. One family lives on the farm in both of those houses. The bodies were found yesterday afternoon by family members living in the other house. So far, the evidence leads investigators to believe one gun was used to commit a double murder homicide. They are still looking for a connection between the teens.
Today, TxDOT gearing up for freezing temperatures. Maintenance crews already pre-treating roads around San Antonio and surrounding areas. Their focus, highways and bridges that are known to freeze and make for hazardous driving conditions.
Another place for you to get a COVID test, and that is the Alamo Dome. This was actually the first full day of testing there. It's a federal site. It opened yesterday. It's also going to be open tomorrow at 7 a.m. and it closes at 5. Here's the thing, though. Leaders recommend that you make an appointment. People can get PCR tests there, but they're also telling you to be patient because right now it's taking 96 hours or 4 days to get those test results. Organizers are going to evaluate weather conditions to determine if that site is going to open on Friday.
Cold and blustery tomorrow. Temperatures down in the low to mid 30s. We're feeling the chill, that's for sure. Even actual wind chills down near 20 with a little bit of a light wintry mix scattered about here and there throughout the day. Main concern, just bridges and overpasses. The warmth and sunlight from the past few days has helped us out in that regard. But Friday morning 20s. By Friday afternoon, we're back into the 40s and 50s this weekend.
All right, and KSAT.com for a full list of school closures.
See you on the